right, so the final thing on this engine here is just to simply install the valve covers. So I want to give everyone a few quick pointers on some really nice equipment. So what we're going to go ahead and do is use these rubber Felpro gaskets, and as you can see, they're pretty stiff. They're a lot better than the cork gaskets. I believe the cork gaskets are $15 and these are about $25–30 bucks. But I really like these. These seal really well. The cork gaskets shrink and they start leaking down the side of your engine. This is way too good looking of an engine to have that happen. So we got some tall valve covers over there to clear our rockers, and we're gonna go ahead and get moving here. So the first thing that I went ahead and did is obviously I wiped down my mating surface here on my heads where my valve cover is going to come down on, and also the mating surface on the valve covers themselves. So anyway, we got some T-handle studs for this engine, and we'll go ahead and get to installing those. All right, so we got one of them on here, and this is kind of what they look like to give a preliminary idea. So after we cleaned our surfaces, I went ahead and took our T-handles out, and I got these from eBay for about 30 bucks. They're not the nicest T-handles there ever were, but they're not $150 T-handles either. And if you go ahead and if you're doing a Ford like this or a Chevrolet, and you buy the T-handles for a big block Chevy, then you'll have two extra, or if you're doing a Chevrolet, you'll have a whole extra set, or for one valve cover. But anyway, so these are some tall valve covers on here, and naturally you want to make sure you get the tall T-handles, and these valve covers are also from eBay from JC Enterprises. I picked these up for about $45, so they're real nice, polished aluminum finish here, and top off the engine real well. But anywho, so these T-handles, you see they have a Phillips insert here where you can go ahead and screw all these in. So that's what we've gone ahead and done. Now, as you see here going through this engine, we do a lot with studs, but studs are really nice. And again, with our gasket, we're going to make sure that it's right on the mating surface. Push it through some of this. It's got a little rubber flashing, but look at that perfect precision fit from our Felpro part here. Obviously you don't want to put a crease in it or anything because it's got a metal insert around it for rigidity. But anyway, we just got that down on it, and real simple here. Take our valve cover, pretty nice piece, and try to do this with one hand here. But you know, our studs line up perfect and it just falls right on. And we don't need any gasket sealer per se with this assembly, because first of all, these rubber gaskets are just tremendously better overall, but since there's a metal insert inside this rubber gasket, it keeps its shape. So if you've ever dealt with cork gaskets, they kind of, you know, it's really hard to make sure they don't sink in places like this. So you normally run gasket sealer, but this is a really nice clean install here where it goes down real well. So that's pretty much it. You know, for the engine will be bagged up, and you know, until we determine what we're going to do with it now. All right, so that concludes the top-end performance build of our Roller 302 5.0 small block Ford engine. And we used the best parts that we could, so it should be a really stout engine when it's dropped in and lit off. But as you notice here, I don't have a water pump or an oil pan, and that's because this particular engine is for sale at least until the summer of 2016 or so. And then if I still have it, I'm going to go ahead and drop it in my Galaxy and drive it to a few Good Guys events. But anyway, you know, you have your water pump. You want to be mindful when you're buying these because they have clockwise, counterclockwise, rotation, whatever, for whatever pulley configuration. And same with our oil pan. You know, if someone buys it, depending on their different K member that they have on their vehicle, it's going to dictate what type of oil pan. So this is going to be the completed state, and we'll just bag it up like this. But anyway, it came out real nice. One thing I want to mention, When I was 16, I read this book, How to Rebuild the Small Block Ford, and if it wasn't for this book, I wouldn't be where I am today. Honestly, I'm not paid to say this. It's just a tremendously descriptive and accurate book. It has really good info, all the torque specs, all the torque patterns. It's really easy to understand. It has head numbering and block casting numbers in it, and just everything. As you can see here, it's real visual and color pictures, so you can really get an idea of what's going on. So it's a tremendous book, and I can't ever go through a build series here without mentioning it, because I owe a lot of what I know and a lot of my beginnings to this book. So always a good read. So with finishing off this engine, in particular, I'd use probably a 600 CFM carburetor. Either depending on what it's in, I'd use either a 600 double pumper Holley, or I'd use a 600 vacuum secondary Summit carburetor. The Summit carburetors are a pretty good line. If you watch my videos, you've seen me use those. Like when I drove my Galaxy from here to Virginia, about 1,400 miles, and then drove it all summer, and then drove it 1,400 miles back. I never had any issues with it. It was a tremendous carburetor. But anyway, and then, just some electronic ignition, you're ready to go on this baby. So anyway, came out pretty nice. And, this garage is pretty cluttered up at this point with tools and boxes and parts. So I'm going to go ahead and get to picking that up and get moving on to the next project. But that's it. Top end performance of your performance build of your small block Ford. So there you have it.